Hi, this is Nancy Rolfsma with On Point TV and Quilting with Nancy. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. I see Kimberly and Constance are already here. Thank you guys. You guys are also channel members, and I really appreciate that too. And Kimberly, you've been doing a lot of work lately. Just saw the post on your snail's trail with using the Sue Penn fabric. I'll talk a little bit about Sue Penn. I hope you guys love her as much as I do, and I hope that you guys give her a chance. And please head over to her channel. So it's Sue Penn Designs, and subscribe to her channel. Just some basics. I don't know if you know how YouTube works, but the way it happens is until you get 1,000 subscribers, you don't make even the 2.5 pennies per view that I make now that I have more than 1,000 subscribers. So we need to get Sue up to over 1,000 subscribers so that she can start making her 2.5 pennies per view too. All right, so I'm going to show you some piece. So we've got Sandra all the way from Tennessee. Thank you very much for just starting to learn. And Cindy Anderson. Hi, Cindy. And Cindy is a member too. So for those of you looking at the chat, when you see somebody's name that has like a little 9 patch on point next to it, that means that they're a channel member. So if you're interested in finding out more about membership to my channel, first of all, know that it is one of the reasons that I'm able to do what I'm doing. So I don't have to go and work in an office because I couldn't keep doing this if I had to keep working in an office too. So membership really helps with that. And there's 3 levels. So take a look at them. If you have any questions about what membership entails, what you will get and what you won't get, go ahead, shoot me an email, quiltingwithnancy@gmail.com. All right. So hi, Georgia. Yep. Georgia's a member too. All right, this looks interesting. So I'm going to take you, so I don't know if you can notice or not, but I have a few new pieces of equipment. Bill bought me a new web camera for Christmas, and I think this has better, I don't know, picture resolution, whatever those things are called. It looks better than when we were using our computer. So we think that makes a big difference. And then my son, who went to school for theater audio engineering and then did his master's for a while down in Cincinnati, which go Bengals. There you go, Keith. I did that just for you. He actually works with an audio video company. And so for Christmas, he actually ordered me some new tripods and things. So you might recall that to get the overhead shot before, I used to have to take and swing in a camera and then it would be right in front of my face and swing it back. He put one way above and it's got a zoom. So I think that you guys are going to like that picture. Hello, Athena Morehouse from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Thank you for joining us today. Yeah, when I've got all this new setup, I don't have to have Athena here. Not that I don't want Athena here, but then, you know, she can go on with her life a little bit more often also. All right. Hi, everybody. Mrs. JB. So I'm going to now take us to our new overhead camera and talk a little bit more about Sue Penn. So on our new, oh, there we are. Here's our new overhead camera. This is one of the pieces. Hi, Joan, all the way from Hawaii. This is one of the pieces that Sue Penn had painted. Now, if you have not yet seen how she actually paints these. She does it a little differently than I do. I use the gel press plate, more stuff like that. Sue, for a minute there, I called her Barb. I was thinking of Barb at Joggles. Sue actually uses paintbrushes and sponges and stuff like that. So this piece, I am going to do I'm going to do an instructional video on Sue's pattern. So if you watch upcoming videos, which we already recorded, she just has to get them online, you'll see the quilt that this is going to be, and I'm going to do some more painting with it using Sue's stencils and stuff like that. These stencils actually come from her Flourish line. If you head over to her, I don't know, I think it must be her Etsy shop, then you can find out more about the stencils. And I had them on some of the links below. Hello, all the way from the UK and Missouri. Kind of Missouri's close, UK's far away. Thank you all very much for joining me. All right, so keep in mind, head over to Sue Penn Designs and subscribe to her channel. I want to get her over 1,000 members or 1,000 subscribers so it'll keep growing. And if you know anything about her fabric, like I know Kimberly does, Kimberly's been making lots of quilts with Sue's fabric. You're going to love the fabric. All right. So I want to show you what we're going to start with today. So we have been working on the Road Home Block of the Month. Now this is a block of the month from Wilmington Batiks. It is all made with batiks. So here it is as far as I've got. I got one more row and then the borders. But this is what we have so far. So we started with that bear's paw in the middle. Then we went to the uneven log cabins, and the last time we were together, we did a couple of different versions of the birds in the air. All right, so I'll show you a little bit more about those. So we've done those videos. Today, we will start working on what I am calling log cabin corners. So it's kind of like a log cabin, but do you see the corners in here going all the way down? That gives it a whole new look. So if you look at the piece behind me here that I worked on, this is what it looks like doing different colors. And I used some high contrast accent fabrics, and I'll show you how I came up with those. So this is what I'm calling the log cabin corners. My cameras are a little different than they used to be, so I feel like I'm like looking around different things. So excuse me if I look like a little bit like I'm lost. Maybe I am. So let's go back to the overhead and let me show you where we're at. So this has been the road home. This is about what we've been working on. I can move my mouse out of there, I guess. This is the entire quilt. It is a large quilt. I want to say probably 90 by 90. The kits for this quilt are available from firesidequilts.com. That is a website owned by my friend Laura that's right here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and she has a few more kits left. The fabric is all batiks. It is really quite gorgeous. Let me see if I can bring it up a little bit farther. Yeah. All right, so you can see that we have done the center, we've done the uneven log cabins, we've done the what I call the birds in the air, and then there's these that are more bear paw, and what we're going to work on today are these corner blocks here. Okay, so that's what we've done so far. Oops, so let me show you those. This was the first one, the road home. Yeah, everybody's popping in now. Thank you guys so much for coming. So this was the bear paw. Now I want you to keep in mind that the bear paw, this is month 1, where it also had some blocks going around, sort of very much like what we're going to do today. And then month 6 is also the bear paw. So I won't be doing a video on month 6. For this one, you're just going to be making 8 of those bear paws, just like you did in the other one. And for that, I came up with this pattern. So if you like the block, but you didn't really want to make the road home, well, you could consider purchasing the pattern. This pattern is currently only available on ePattern, and in it, you're going to see that I ended up having to print in black and white after a bit. So I always put in a couple of different colorways, very detailed instructions. This is a part that's in black and white because I was running out of ink. I'm going to get one of those new printers that Shack advertises where you don't have to have cartridges. But what I want to show you by looking at it is all the detail, lots and lots of detail. And I'm going to show you 2 different ways to make the half square triangles here. Right. The second one that we did, actually it's not the second one. Well, this was the third one. We're a little bit out of order. This was what I called the birds in the air. And I called it birds in the air because I was looking at my block base on EQ, and that's what Barbara Breckman called it. So I'm like, okay, if it's good enough for Barbara, because she knows everything about this kind of stuff, it's good enough for me. So this was what the road home one looked like. Okay. Ooh. And this is what mine looked like. Got things out of order. I try so hard. So mine I showed you, and I did this one in 2 videos because this was done with a larger block, but something about it just made it seem to me like it would be so extra cool if it were more in miniature. So for that, I did the blue and white one. So this was a paper piece design. So with this pattern, you get the birds in the air for the large size and for the paper piece size. And this is now available in print. So if you don't like doing the e-patterns, I am slowly getting my patterns turned over into print. So Teresa is kind of reformatting them for me. But keep in mind, I like the big pictures that I do in my patterns, so they're not any smaller. The cover is smaller, but the inside is actually exactly the same. So nice big pictures for those of us that need extra glasses. So this one is available on the website now as an e-pattern or as a printed pattern like this. Then we also have done the uneven log cabin. And again, this was a little different. I should have called it uneven log cabin. Oh, this is another one. This is not part of this, but this is the Storm at Sea. And I have now gotten this one printed also. So it's available as an e-pattern and as a printed pattern. This is the uneven log cabin, and I should have called it uneven log cabin with corners, because a normal uneven log cabin does not have those little squares, and that was the quilt that we came up with. That mine was a little bit redder and bluer, so a little bit more patriotic looking. Again, lots of really good instructions and different sizes that you could make with that, but not paper pieced. Had a viewer ask, could this one be done paper pieced? It really can't, because of the little squares going here. It can't be done paper pieced. I did show her a couple of other options, but just know that that one couldn't. She really loves paper piecing, and I get it. It's so precise. Who doesn't love that? So the next, after we're done with what we're going to do today, we will have the month 4, which there are 4 of these outside corners, and I've got to come up with a design so that if you just wanted to make that block, it could actually be just one quilt, the whole block. So, and this one has some really tiny little pieces in here doing some connecting corners. That'll be fun. And then the last one will be the pieced border, and I'll probably do this on one of the borders of the previous quilts that I've done. And I've got some new information on this because I didn't really care for the way they pieced this. So hopefully if you're working on this quilt, you'll be patient until I do this one, because I didn't care for the instructions they did on this one. I have a much easier way to do that. Okay, so let's move these a little bit out of the way. Look at all this space I have. Okay, please ignore the paint on my cutting mat, because when I paint, there just seems to be no way to do it nicely. All right, so this is what we're going to work on today. And this is going to be month 3 in the road home. And I'm calling this log cabin corners, because there are these corners, these squares going through. A normal log cabin does not have that. And that's what makes this so interesting. So let me show you a picture. Am I back now?
I don't know.
All right, Bill says, I went to a picture. Did you just see the picture?
I see a picture.
Do you not hear me? Okay, that means he was playing video games and watching at the same time. So you can't hear me? I'm back on.
There you are.
Up, frozen.
Yep.
Oh, so when I put that picture on, it wouldn't let me talk. I get it. Thank you, Bill. So that picture, sorry about, it wasn't really frozen. I had actually just put a picture up there. And that was to show you the difference between a regular log cabin and a log cabin with corners. Trust me, I continued to talk. You just couldn't hear anything I was saying. So, all right. So we're going to get back to the overhead. Okay, you should be able to see me. So this is what we're going to work on. This is the pattern and the quilts that I've designed. So as usual, I've got nice big photos of everything, so you don't have to have a magnifying glass to read it. And then I've done different settings, because the thing that makes a log cabin so cool are the different ways that you can set it in different colorways and sizes. All right. So this is available on OnPoint-TV. And it is only an e-pattern right now. Hopefully in the next month or so, I'll be able to get it printed. Let me know if this would be one that you would like to see. Okay. So we're going to start with picking our colors. So these are the colors that I've chosen for the quilt behind me. So I'm going to real quickly go back to the front camera so you can see this is what all of these look like. This is my center fabric. Then I have my light side, my dark side, and my blue accent and my gold accent. Okay, so looking at the fabrics a little bit closer, this is the main print. And looking at this main print, I saw those dark colors, I saw the lighter colors, a little bit of that rusty that I like so much. And do you see the blue? Because at first glance, you might not see the blue. It's only those small squares. This will end up being the border on this quilt also. So this was my main fabric. These were my two accents. I only have a little bit left of the blue and the gold. Okay, so those are accents, so only going to be 2-inch squares. And then here is my 3 lights, kind of, oops, better keep that in here. Let's scooch it. There we go. All right. So my 3 lights and my 3 darks. Okay, so this is how I chose the fabric for this particular quilt. Let's put these away and we can get to the processes. It really goes pretty quick if you think about the different ways that I've taught you already to cut your pieces. So in the instructions, it is going to tell you, let's go to, nope, not this one. I want to go to the instructions that came with it. And this is kind of something that I want you to kind of keep track of when you're looking at a pattern. On this particular pattern, the first part says for fabric A and B that you're supposed to cut strips and then cut them into 2-inch squares. I say don't do it. Don't cut things into 2-inch squares. Think through the process of how it is made. So in this particular quilt, you're going to see that I've done things in strips like this, because if I were following the directions, these would have been 2-inch squares, and this would have been a small little rectangle, or a square actually. So instead of taking this fabric and cutting the strip width that it calls for, and then cross-cutting it into squares, and then putting a rectangle here and a rectangle there, instead, think it through. Think through the pattern. And it always says read the pattern before you start anyway, which is always a good idea. Not that I always do it. I always look at the pictures. Love pictures. So on this one, the starting bit was to take the center fabric and cut it into a square. Instead of cutting into squares, I found the fabrics that were going to be next to it on the block. So if you're looking like at a block that's almost done, not all done, you see that it's these two right here. And I put those strips on before I cut them. So then I can use want to make sure my head's not getting in the shot. That's something different. I do like that you don't see me swinging that camera in front of me anymore. That's a good thing, right? Thank you, Keith. All right. Then I'm going to turn it, and now I can cut it down to the size. And I like to use the horizontal line of the seam. So I'm looking at the seam. I'm not so much looking at the rough edge here. I could, but really what's more important is that seam. And then I can cut the size that I need. So in this particular case, it was 3.5 inches. All right. So instead of having to piece all the little individual guys together, sew those strips together. And that is also kind of how I'll do log cabins too. Instead of sewing, cutting a 2-inch strip and then cutting a 9-inch section out of the 2-inch strip, instead cut a 9-inch strip and then cut 2-inch segments going down. I think that it saves fabric, and I also think that it means, well, I know that it means that you are cutting on the length of grain. Okay, so if I've got these little guys, the next step is to take, and I know I have them here. There they are. All right. So I've got my center square, so I'm going to make 4 more blocks. So I've got the centers for 4 more blocks for the quilt behind me. I'm going to take those and then piece on these sections. Guess what? These sections told you again to cut little squares. These were actually the A and the B for this, but instead, I don't have my sizes together there. It'd be something like this. So I took and I did the strips of the center one, and then instead of cutting squares, I pieced on the strips. So this is the same thing that I did in the uneven log cabin. So here, I'm going to take and piece them on. Oh, let's talk about pressing real quick. Always looking at how things are pressed. So this one is pressed to the inside. Ooh, there's a little bit that's not pressed there. That'll drive me crazy. I'll go back. So if these are pressed to the inside as one big strip, making it so easy to do it, then these are pressed to the outside. So I'll be able to butt the seams together. Okay. So with this, I've got the first two sides of my dark, and here is the two sides of my light. So be sure that your contrast, your accent colors are in opposite directions. All right. And that will get you to this little block. Okay. So with this one, that's what we would have. The next blocks, you do need to cut the rectangular sections, but instead of cutting a 2-inch strip and then cross-cutting it into the longer sizes, I will always look at the pattern and say, okay, it's telling me to cut 2-inch strips and subcut it into 9.5 inches. I look at it and I reverse these two. I would cut a 9.5 inch strip, 9.5, and then I would cut it into 2-inch strips going this way. It is so much more efficient, and you're going to be working with the length of the grain on these longer strips, which is going to make your block more stable. Now, having said that, you can't always do it. It's not always going to happen, but when possible, that's how I'm going to cut those strips. So on this, that's what I've done. I took the center square that I made below there, and then I've put on the 9.5 inch strips. Are those 9.5? I don't think if there's it might be another one it is. Yeah, this one's 6.5. It gets to 9.5. And then I'm going to show you this time how I actually cut those segments. So the two segments that go on either side of this are this one, which is going to be red, blue and gold, and then this one will be blue and gold this way. So I've got my little strips. Okay, this is, I cut the 9.5 inch, no, I think it was 6.5 inch, and the 2 and the 2, and I'm going to cut them together at the same time. So if I stack it up, and I'm going to offset my seams are pressed in, I'm going to offset it all by about 1/2 inch, so that here my seams are not stacking on. I can feel the seam goes to here, and then this seam starts there. So it's going to be the same thing at the bottom. And I'm honestly just eyeing it. And generally speaking, I think it turns out pretty good. But if you want to get more exact, you could. So here, going to line up on the horizontal line of this down at the bottom. Cut. Then I can spin them. And so now I'm going to be really efficient. I can't cut 6, but I'm going to start at 4. So I'm going to power cut. So instead of cutting 2 inches and 2 inches, not only is my efficiency in stacking multiple layers, so I'm cutting more at a time, but I also am going to power cut, which means I'm going to always be using the original cut for all of my cuts, which is going to make it not only more accurate and not more efficient, but it also is more accurate. So now I've got these. Then these will go on here. Same idea, keeping in mind. Ooh, I'm so glad that I did this because this is right. Okay, so this one, they were pressed out, which is the point of least resistance on that particular row. These ones are pressed in. And of course, in my pattern, I tell you, give you those little pressing arrows. If you've ever worked on one of my patterns or books, I have lots and lots of pressing arrows going on. So this, you will piece here and here. And I will not just let that go willy-nilly. I'll put my pin cushion on real quick. So these are my pin cushions, also available on my website. So I am always going to pin it. So I'm going to match that seam up. Just got my nails cut. I can't pick up anything. It is nursery time, which means it's time for short nails. And then this one, I'm going to butt that seam together, making sure that my intersections are correct. And then when I sew this, yes, you guessed it, I am going to sew right over those pins because I do it all the time. So that'll be my second set of logs with corners, which is going to get me to this block. Now, once you are here, I am going to recommend that you square it up. So there's only one more row to go. But at this point, I would square it up. Now I'm using my 9.5 inch ruler, and it is a smidge smaller than 9.5 inches, which I'm okay with. I need to go back and adjust my seam allowance, make it a little bit smaller. But I'm going to trim that off. There's something about these logs, and I don't know what it is, but see that? So it's almost like they get a little bit pudgy, like they just ate Thanksgiving dinner or something. So I like to, at about this point, trim things off just to make sure there's nothing pointing out funny, like that would have been. All right, because I know this is little. This is such a little teeny piece. What's the big deal? It's just the idea that when you add the next one, it's going to be bigger. It's like having Thanksgiving dinner and 2 pies instead of just one. So then I'm going to take the long strips, and these are the ones that are actually cut 9.5 inches. These came from a 9.5 inch wide strip that I subcut into 2. And then this one is going to be the 9.5 there. And then just like with the other one, these would be the 2 pieces. This is a 9.5 inch and then a couple on there. And I'm going to offset that, kind of going even across the top and the bottom. And then I'd have to use a longer ruler, which I don't have handy right now. And I would cut those into the segments to finish my block, my log cabins with corners block. So honestly, it's pretty simple. Really, really similar to how we did the uneven log cabin. And it's just a matter of the trick, if you want to say there's a trick. The trick is when you're looking at how they are cut, and it says cut 2 inches and then cut a long rectangle, don't do it. Cut the rectangle first and then cut the little 2 inches. There you go. That's all I have to show you today. Hopefully, I'll be back with you next Friday. I want to do a new painting video. I've got some new paints and they get me really excited. I also have some new stencils. That also gets me really, really excited. So I want to bring you those, so do some painting videos. So I think the next time we'll be able to get together will be maybe about 3 weeks, and I might have to switch my day instead of doing on Thursdays. This is the time of year, so we are mid-February right now, 2022, and my sister owns a nursery which is on the farm that my dad still lives at, and so I actually go and work with her 3 or 4 days a week until June, which that's another part of the cool things I get to do now that I don't have to be in the office, and it's cool because I also get to spend some time with my dad. So with me being there, I obviously don't have as much time being here, but it does mean I'd get really, really great flowers. So the cutting, thank you very much. I'm glad that my cutting tips help. That's what the whole idea is, to be efficient and accurate when you're cutting. So the pattern behind me for the quilt behind me is on my website, which is onpoint-tv.com. For those of you that are already currently members of the channel, so the basic channel, the basic membership, you don't get this, but for the designer and the addict members, if you want that pattern in EQ, just let me know. I could send it over to you. It's not a big deal. You're a member. Those of you that are quilt addicts, you should have already gotten your e-pattern version of this a few days ago. So if you have not gotten it, let me know. I know that somebody already told me. I think Kimberly told me she already got it. Somebody did. So I'm pretty sure that it went out. So that was a short little video today with my new technology. Oh, Keith is also going to hang a camera over my sewing machine. So I'll be able to go all the way to my sewing machine, which is 8 feet away from me, but it's over there, so we'll be able to start using the sewing machine too. So I'm pretty excited instead of just showing you that. Although this was simple enough, I don't think you needed to see it. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you joining me, and have a great day.